Hello and welcome to this week on the Hope Hotspot podcast. We heard from Jem Williams on Sunday morning about her time in Hanoi in Vietnam, where she was on a 6-month mission trip. So we have got for you today the audio from Sunday morning's presentation. Enjoy.
Right, so I'm just going to start off by giving you a little bit of talking Vietnamese. So say Xin chào, em tên là Jenny. Em sang Hanoi, Việt Nam sau tháng. Em đi làm dài tiếng Anh, and that's what I'm going to tell you. Anybody know what that means? Yeah. So that means my name is Jenny. I lived in Hanoi, Vietnam for 6 months, and while I was there, I did some teaching of English. I also learnt some Vietnamese, as you can probably tell. So I just want to give you a quick recap about why I went. So before I went in February of this year, the beginning of February, and I arrived back at the beginning of August. Before that, I'd felt God really call me to work with trafficked women. So with a lot of stories in between, I won't go into too much detail. If you want to talk to me about it later, I can. And kind of made the official decision in September, October time. I then had to raise the money in 4 months to get out to Vietnam in February, which I did with God's help. I don't think I could have done it without that. So let's have a quick look at what I did. So while I was out there, I worked with 2 charities and another one which was slightly different. So the main one I worked for was Blue Dragon. They are just an amazing organisation to work with. They help trafficked women in the sense that they rescue them from China, get them visas to come back to Vietnam, because a lot of them have no travel documentation, so it's hard for them to get back into the country. Once they get there, they end up having to speak to lawyers, and they try and prosecute the traffickers. After the prosecutions or during the prosecutions, they're also putting up in shelters, feeding them, clothing them, reuniting them with their families if they can do. A lot of these women, and I say girls as well, the youngest one I met was 14 years old. She had been trafficked and thankfully was rescued and reunited with her family. But their stories are really difficult. They are taken from their family, sometimes without consent, well, most of the time without consent. They are either tricked by family friends who get paid a lot of money for these girls. They're taken to China, a lot of the time more recently, to be brides. Because of the China's one-child policy, a lot of the children in China that are now just turning into adults are male, and there are no girls. So they are taking the Vietnamese women to be their brides, and they're holding them until they get pregnant. When they get pregnant, then they're given a little bit more freedom, and that is the time that they are most likely to escape. But you can imagine the kind of trauma that they have suffered at that point. Some of them don't get rescued and only are able to get rescued after they've had 3 or 4 children. Then they have to make that decision. Do they stay with their children or do they come back to Vietnam? I can't tell you too much about the girls themselves. Obviously, that's quite confidential. But while I was there, I was teaching 6 girls who just were so fantastic. They made me smile every time I met them. They were so full of joy and love, and they loved correcting me when I tried to speak Vietnamese, because I don't know if it's quite a tonal language. It's very difficult. And they were just so full of life, which kind of, for me, I felt they have been through such trauma, but they are so hopeful for their future. These girls can do anything with their lives. Blue Dragon will support them, whatever they want to be. If they want to become a doctor, they can be. There was a case of one trafficked woman who wanted to become a doctor, and Blue Dragon paid for her education, put her through university, and now she obviously works as a doctor, but she also volunteers for Blue Dragon. So she has come from such a bad kind of trauma to just so much hope and so much future. The shelter where the girls are often sleep and live when they're not with their families has to be kept secret because a lot of the traffickers will try and get the girls back. So I was trusted enough to know where the shelter was when I was teaching there. But I wasn't allowed to get a taxi there. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody where it was located within Hanoi. I had to I used to catch a bus, but I had to walk from the bus stop over there, but I wasn't allowed to tell people what I was doing there, who was living there. You have to be very quiet, and it's quite a serious matter, which was a bit shocking to me. I thought they'd be fine once they come to Hanoi, but no, they're not. The other work I did was with Hagar, and they wanted a research project. So Hagar worked with trafficked women, but they also work with domestic abuse victims. And they wanted to have some work done for crowdfunding. It's an avenue that they've not looked at in terms of fundraising. So my job was to do a whole project on that, do lots of research on that, present a presentation and write a report, which I did. They were very, very pleased with that. And originally it was just for the Vietnam Hagar, but they were so impressed that they've actually passed it on to the CEO of all of Hagar. And my recommendations have actually gone out to the whole of the charity, which makes me think, actually, I've had a bit of an impact here. So that was really, really good. Culture. Vietnam is very, very different to us. Very different. Transport-wise, the most common form of transport is a motorbike, and you will get 5 people on a motorbike. Easily. Usually only one of them will be wearing a helmet. Ironically, it's usually the father of a family will be wearing the helmet and the kids won't be. You can transport anything on the back of a bike. If we think, I could do it in a car, they can do it on a bike. If we think we can get it on the back of a van, they'll do it on a bike. And the other form of transport is the bus, which I call all the time. It was about 7,000 dong for a bus ticket, which is about 30p. And it would take me anywhere in Hanoi. So that was really, really good fun to go on. But buses don't really stop. They slow down. So you have to quickly learn how to jump out of a bus that's still moving and then walk off looking quite like, yeah, I can do this. I'm really cool. But that was fun. Food is very different, but absolutely. I mean, it's meant to be the healthiest food in the world, and I can tell you, unfortunately, that I put on a lot of weight, so I probably ate too much. But it was fantastic. And eating on the street was a brand new experience for me, but one very, very welcome. I actually visited the north of Vietnam, where a lot of the women are trafficked as well, and just saw kind of what their lives were like. And that was just incredible to see kind of how different it was from the city. And that's a lot of Vietnam. You go to different places and it is all very, very different. They've got a different culture in each area. There are about 54 different ethnicities that speak different languages in one country. I mean, we speak lots of different languages because we've got people from different nations, but they have one nation with 54 different kind of types of people. And the Vietnamese that I was speaking is the Kinh, which is the most common language spoken, but people in the north will speak a different language, which makes communicating a little bit difficult. The people, so one of the best parts of my experience, other than working with Blue Dragon and Hagar, was meeting some incredible people. So I've just put some faces on there. In the bottom corner are David and Louise, who were my mentors, and they were just such lovely people, and they're doing such amazing work in Vietnam. And in the middle, on the left, are my kind of, we call our Chung Ku family, which were the families in my building, which were like my family while I was there. And they're just such incredible people. I just wanted to put them up there and say, look, these guys are great. Right, challenges. Air pollution is absolutely shocking. I have to wear a mask. I do suffer from asthma, so it made it even worse. Every day I'd have to check the air pollution level because it would get so bad that I shouldn't have been out of the house. And I'd still have to be out of the house. So you have to wear a really cool-looking mask like that most of the time. So apart from the air pollution, you then had to deal with the rain. When it rains, it's not like this rain. No. It's like a bucket on you and you get wet. Even if you are wearing waterproofs, you will still get soaked through. Particularly if you're walking down the road and a car then just decides to go next to you and you get a wave of water wash over you. And yes, that did happen. So that was fun. The other thing was the heat. It was very nice and warm at the beginning, so I was quite making you all jealous by being really nice and hot. But it did get to about 40 degrees, which there's a lot of people getting down with heat stroke, heat exhaustion. You can't be out in the sun for more than 10 minutes, direct sunlight, because you're just sweating. I started to feel dizzy. You can't cope. I just couldn't cope with that heat. So trying to get to places was about jumping from air-conditioned building to air-conditioned building. Thankfully, the buses were air-conditioned most of the time. And what did I learn? I learned that I needed God in every step of my journey. From when I woke up in the morning, to walking to the bus stop, to catching the bus, to taking my language lessons, to teaching these girls. Every moment I had spare, I would be praying because I knew I needed God. And it's something that in this daily life here in the UK, I forget because I'm so used to just getting on with my life with ease. But in Vietnam, it wasn't easy, and I needed God every step of that way. I learned to go with the flow. Things don't really happen very quickly in Vietnam, so you just need to just go with it. And it's hopefully maybe a little bit more calmer. I'd like to think so, but probably not. And I also learned how blessed I am in the UK. We have got a lot of things that they don't. But it's not just that, it's the ease of which we can get hold of things that they can't. And expats would say the same who are living there. And as I mentioned, I also learned how to jump off a moving bus. Okay, so I'm currently enjoying being back with friends and family, and I'm also teaching again. I didn't think I'd be doing that, but I actually really quite enjoy teaching English, so I'm back to teaching normally. But my next step, for those of you that keep asking me, is I'm just going to enjoy right now and listen to what God has next.